Is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda right now? Yeah. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
To approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So the October 23rd agenda has been approved. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which consists of September 25th meeting minutes, the pending deposited gift reports, and the statistical reports as submitted or amended?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
This is such a fun job. Okay, is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard? All right. Clay, are you going to do the Friends report?
I will. Good
Thank
afternoon,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
This board apologized that she couldn't be here this afternoon, but she just said that everything, pretty much the same report, from last meeting. But just wanted to remind everybody that the book sale is coming up very soon, Friday, November 1st, 12 to 5 and 7 to 9, with the traditional 10 to 12 window for Friends members. Kind of a perk for them. And that evening also at 5:30 will be their annual meeting. And so that'll kind of in the between parts of the sale. On Saturday, November 2nd, they'll run from 10 to 4. And also on Sunday, November 3rd, from 1 to 4. So they're busy getting it all together right now. They've got a lot of the stuff boxed and ready to move into the auditorium. That's coming up just 2 weeks. But that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
The foundation, Susan.
Good morning. Our 2023-2024 impact report will be put in mailboxes in the next week. An electronic version will go out in the next 2 weeks to our community of advocates through the foundation's email list and via library aware. Also, annual fund season is here, and I want to thank our returning donors. If you have not yet made a year-end gift, please consider so. The walk-through lane and the branches will show the impact of your gift and hopefully inspire you. Ask your local branch about their summer interns and programs, and if you are at Maine, please stop by and see that we are in process as we upgrade our young adult area and the learning center in the children's area. Please talk about these new efforts with friends and family. Recently, an individual donor increased his gift from $2,500 to $10,000 when he learned about our individual, our
Yes.
efforts.
Yes.
So please continue to share the exciting upgrades and changes that are possible when we work together. In particular, I'd like to express appreciation to a new foundation joining us in the renovation of the children's area. The Herndon Foundation's $10,000 gift is significant and will enable us to continue these improvements. Finally, we recently received an email invite with a link to review the new Richmond Public Library digital collections page. Suggestions and comments are appreciated as we seek to offer a friendly, public-facing resource for the region. Comments may be directed to Chloe McCormick, Marvin Hicks, or myself. Thank you very much, and that concludes my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Is the Herndon the person we talked to that was the Ucrops family, or is that something different?
That's
That's
a different.
a different one. Okay. Well, good job. Woo. Yes. Okay, next we have library administration, and before we go to Scott, I would like to introduce you to Meldon Jenkins Jones, who won an award winner from the Virginia State Library Association. she pioneered so many good programs when she was head of our law library, and now we've captured her at Hull, so I'm just delighted. Can you talk to us a little bit about who comes to Hull? What kinds of programs do you have? Anything that you think we would find interesting?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I've been here for 2 years at the Hull Street branch, and lots been going on. And they said I had to talk for 5 to 10 minutes, and I thought, well, put everything in a neat little package and have it something that you would not fall asleep on. So I thought, well, all the good speakers have, 10 ways to, and the 14 tips and the 3 R's and the, so I'm going to give you the 16 P's, only those P's and 16 letter of the alphabet. Past, when I first got here 2 years ago, we had a problem with the protection police, the personnel that were doing security, and that has improved a lot. We focused a lot on the strategic plan, and that is our children. We have a children's intern who is helping our children's librarian, our youth services librarian, and she's got a lot of great ideas. She's a student at UCU, and so we were very glad to have her, which brings us to the teen patrons. That's one of our biggest challenges. We're looking for more teens, and so we need to get out there and beat bushes for them, because I know they're here somewhere, but they're just not here in our library. So publicity might help that. Marketing, and not just social media. We need maybe more traditional, maybe more outreach, and so we're planning on that. Speaking of outreach, our first outreach for last month for National Library Card Sign-Up Month was at the Big Apple Supermarket. We have a very large contingent of Spanish speakers in our service area. So we would like to reach out to them, and we have a new person who just started this week, and she speaks Spanish. She studies Spanish in school, so we're thinking that she will help us with that. So recently, I personally have encountered 2 people. One lady wanted to go, she could not read Spanish, but she spoke Spanish, and then another lady came in with her son who was an interpreter, like he was about 12, and it's just really hard to speak Spanish. So we're looking forward to making headway into that. Plagued by low circulation. When you have low circulation, you get the least amount of books, and then it's hard to build up your circulation because we don't have books to use to build up. So we have probably with the items that we do receive. We've got a lot of paranormal teen books. Too many. We have more than enough. We need more books with African American characters or color. And I just got a call yesterday from someone with a daycare center who wants more books with more Black characters. Programming. Our senior book club has been doing great. Hull Street joined the other 3 libraries this year, and we've built up to about 8 people, getting new people, so that's going really well. We have a partnership with the Department of Aging and Wood City, so that's really helpful. Other partners are GRTC has been coming here a lot. I think they want to put a bench or something by our bus stop on the corner here. And then the American Heart Association, of course, with the self-check blood pressure. And the newest one is James River Association. We're joining the Green RPL movement, so I'm really excited about that. We, of course, have our annual Dorothy I. Hike celebration because we have two historical markers here, and they come out en masse, like 20, 30, 40 people. We have presently the issue of the homeless. The homeless people are fine. They don't do anything weird. They're just here with their bags. The problem we have is when we call the city agencies to get them help, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. And when they're not there, it's very disappointing. We really don't know what to do. We don't have the manpower or the services here for them. So that can be very disappointing. So we need more help with that. One of our big problems here now is parking. And I finally found out the owner of the property. It's a holding company in New York, so I will be contacting them. But what happens is people park in the big parking lot on the other side of the alley, and immediately the cars
Get towed, yeah.
come in, and we say, "Where did you park?" And they go back outside. The tow truck might already be there. So they're obviously, the truck company is out of control. So we need to address that issue. On the positive side, we're getting a lot more use from our meeting room, and it's becoming the community hub that we want it to be. Our computers are used a lot. I'm sorry, computers doesn't start with B, but so our project for the future, I'd like to start a writers group like the one I started one at West End Library 10 years ago, and then we started a memoir writers group at Maine, which was very popular around for years. So we'd like to start something like that here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? I'll say two things. First, when I walked in, everyone was very welcoming on your staff, from the security guard to the front desk. And I think that is exactly the kind of message we want every patron to feel like they're at a place that's happy to have them. So give your staff kudos. They did a good job. The second thing, Sharon and I went to the Black Writers. Was that here?
Yes.
It was phenomenal.
The urban fiction was wonderful.
It was phenomenal. So thank your entire team who came up with that idea. We were both really impressed with the speakers and all of the people. You need a bigger room though.
Really? Really?
I'm sending my messages here.
We've been sending them for quite a long time.
Now, I have a question.
Yes.
How much input do you have into selection of the books that you get?
Not enough, in my opinion, not enough. Got an awful lot to do here. The collection manager is doing a great job, but we need to tweak it.
Okay.
How are the laptops, loaning going?
They're going in and out.
You've educated me. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions for Meldon? No. Thank you. Okay, Scott, I switched you around, so now we're going to put you for library administration.
Nothing really to add to the written report that I've provided you on pages 7 and 8. I will mention circulation is up about 20% compared to last year at this time, so we're tracking very well. Hopefully we can achieve that 1 million, surpass 1 million in circulation this year. You all should have received pictures from Jana. Some of you were able to get in and get your school picture taken, and you should have received those. If you need touch-up or want to do it again, we're going to have a makeup day. A couple of you were not able to make it, so I'd like to coordinate just one last day so you can come and get a professional picture so we can have you all on the website. So stay tuned for that. If you want to send me, I'll reach out and see if we can coordinate a good date. So we have some staff who need pictures, so we're going to do one more makeup day. Other than that, October's been a great month. We had read-up was successful. We had 100 people show up. a little over 100. It was on a Sunday, that was new. The discussion was lively, and
It was
we
an
had
excellent
a lot
event.
of positive comments from that.
Excellent event.
So we're just preparing for Thanksgiving and kind of the spin down of the rest of the year.
Advocacy Task Force. Do you want me to take this one? Since we've done nothing. We've done nothing. We will meet, but I'm kind of thinking after the election, when we actually know who it is.
Who to direct things to.
Yeah. So it works out in my mind fine, because we'll have Scott talk today about the budget. After the election, Sharon, Scott, and I will sit down and draft an advocacy plan, which we all do, and then in the November meeting, we'll be ready to talk about it. If there's things you want us to pay a special attention to, this is the time to tell us. Any things you want us really alert for?
When we talk about finance, maybe touch on a little bit of that, just as far as focus, but yeah.
Okay, fair, yeah, fair enough. All right. Policy, Emily.
No updates this time, stay tuned.
Okay, now we're going to go to the board committee reports, and I get to start. When we talked last month, we discussed doing a few little things different in our meetings. One is getting the branch managers to come in and talk to us, which the two we've had I've liked very much. The other thing is to bring in senior staff. So Scott and I came up with a list of senior staff, and last month, each of you did your tally. And I didn't tally because I wanted it to be your choices, but we have the answers. And I'm just so pleased. You ready for what the top choice was by you for someone to come in next year and talk? Jennifer Duell, Outreach and Engagement Manager. She's number 1. Barbara Crump, RVA Reeds. Genevieve Gray, number 3, librarian for young adults. Danielle Howard, Innovation Center and Technology. And your final top choice is Patrick DeRoche, Art and Music. So Scott and I will, as we work out our calendar year 2025 meeting list, insert all 5 of these, perhaps not in order, but we'll get them all in. But thank you all for being so thoughtful about this. I think it's going to be extra element of learning and fun. So we can look forward to that. Now I want to turn it over to Scott, and he is going to do his regular financial report, but he's also going to talk to us about the budget, which was requested early. After he talks about that, ask questions of him, but then I've asked Bill, who was ready to do this anyway, to weigh in. We have to be financial, fiduciarily conscientious. And once we've done that, then we can advocate. But we can't advocate until we've been thinking about the budget and it makes sense. And Bill has led that effort with Brent and with Garrett. So he'll give us some thoughts too. So Scott, group, Bill. Okay?
All right?
You're first.
All right. So you'll recall this last year when we submitted our 24 budget request, we asked for some things. Bill and Chris and I visited with the CAO and CIO Saunders and DCAO Joy Hogg, and we discussed our request. We were informed at that time that there really wasn't any resources to do the expansion of the things, which we're really logical things that the board has discussed and talked about for years. And so we were told there's no resources for that, but come back in next year and we'll talk about more things in terms of operational personnel funding and CIP. So in this request for the next fiscal year, I thought it was logical and made a lot of sense to just ask for what we've already asked for. No surprise there. They will be prepared for it when it comes to them. And it centers around all of those things that we have been focusing on increasing for our users and in turn in the budget. So access, asked for about $1.3 million over the next 5 years to increase access. So moving evening hours from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. in some locations. Opening hours earlier in all of our locations. Right now we still have some branches that are opening at 10 a.m. It'd be nice to have a consistent opening schedule and improve access along those lines. Now access is one piece, its activities go along with that as well. So there's funding involved in that access, included in that access, that will add resources so we can do more programs and have events in the spaces to attract people while we're open. Next priority is children's literacy. Again, expanding staffing along the lines of having more programs, more story times, more activities, more summer reading programs, winter reading programs. You'll notice that we've added 1,000 books before kindergarten. That's been a program that we've had for a long time. We've amped up the promotion of that and are really encouraging the community to get engaged in that. So all of those are programs that we want to add more resources to. Young adults, that's another way that we're focused on. So having out of school time activities and resources in all of our library locations that will connect with teenagers and below and above. So we kind of define young adults as children who are from 12 to sometimes 23. So activities for that age group. And then lifelong learning would be the next thing. That's support for people who are doing job seeking, advanced education, job certifications, and senior citizen programming. We have a real deficit of programming for folks who are older than 50. So I'd like to see us expand activities and programming and other resources along that. That's about $500,000 over the next 5 years. And then lastly, outreach. We would like to have we've talked about it earlier this year. We sought grant funding from a federal level. We were not successful in that. However, we've done all the work over the last year to determine what does that look like? What do we need to do? There are a lot of Richmonders who don't have the resources or the transportation to get to branch libraries. So how do we better reach our users where they're at? So what we proposed is a bookmobile or bookmobiles staff to do that. And that would be about $1.3 million in the first year, and then supporting it over the next year. So those were our big asks in the budget. Lastly, we've included some fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. I'm asking for about $125,000 a year in our operational funds to fix furniture and facilities and pieces. So if you come to our branches, you will see furniture that's 15 years old or older.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And not a comfortable chair in the place. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm asking for resources to do that outside of the CIP budget. So those are the big requests that we've included in our budget request for 2026. And so we'll see.
Remind me of the time frame. You have submitted this budget.
Yeah, it had to go in last Friday.
Okay.
The other piece was our CIP capital improvement projects, and as many of you are aware, we've had them in the CIP for many years. They are broken down into two projects. So one CIP project is the main library. So requests for what we have prepared in the master plan. So we're asking to consider the funding of the $70 to $100 million for that plan. So that's one project. The other project is our branch libraries and renovations across the board. So if you think of it in two buckets, that's how to break it up. So one project is main, the other project is branches. So we're asking to complete that second phase of the 2009 plan, which said all of our branches need to be expanded. Many of them don't have the space for the activities that we want to do. So we're in a very small meeting room. As Meldon said, this is becoming a community hub. We don't have enough space in this room to have effective programs. You brought up, you went to the urban fiction experience.
Yeah.
A wonderful thing for this neighborhood, this building, we have to spread out into all of the areas. So that's great, and we can do that in the short term, but that doesn't help the people who maybe needed to come here on a Saturday to have quiet space to study, because we broke out all over the library. So raising the capacity, evaluating and expanding our branch libraries and renovating the spaces is what that project is about. So we are making that request, and that's going to have to be revisited and evaluated in terms of the report that Facilities is putting together. So that report is going to evaluate where we're at from the 2009 plan and make some recommendations on, hey, we need a 15 or 20,000 branch at Westover Hills, or Broad Rock Library could do with, we have all these needs. So making our case to the city is what we're doing in those CIP documents. So I think we have a lot of opportunity. We are doing our best to demonstrate the case, explain the framework around it, and then build upon it. So providing them information, reflecting the needs of our community, which is what you all are doing all of the time, listening and explaining so we can report to the city so they can help us, help our users have the library that they need and want. So that's the quick 5-minute overview of what we presented. I've gone over these with Bill. So what questions do you all have?
Does that CIP request include expanding into the satellite, possibly expanding into satellite units in places
new
where,
locations,
I keep harping on, up Jeff Davis Highway and Scott's Addition, we need something there, we're trying to eliminate transportation stuff, people having it. So we need places where people can walk to or, get to very easily. And we can't wait 5 years to request money to do that, my other comment you mentioned something about transportation. Have we established, is there a bus stop in front of every library? It is? Okay. I don't know the bus schedules, but I just want to make sure, that's in place because they're talking about transportation there. But, even so, there are places like I live off Huguenot Road. I have to walk 5 blocks to get a bus, and it only comes like 4 times a day. So those kind of things affect how people get here, and we need to have a conversation if you ever talk about transportation about how, senior citizens and, they need to examine where do senior citizens with no transportation live, those kinds of, and I know this is kind of off topic, but I just want to make access for everybody,
Yeah, right on. That's why outreach is such a focus that we've worked on. Facilities brought it up that we need to meet people where they're at. Our outreach engagement librarian, Jen Dool, and her team, they work across many channels to try and make sure we're letting users know, but also delivering resources to them. I'm excited about the potential that we could have with a mobile library. In a small library like this, if we had a mobile library, we could do a STEAM event here that Meldon couldn't warehouse the stuff, but we could deliver it here. We could visit senior centers with a mobile library and do programming, not just dropping off books, because a lot of senior centers already have little libraries in their locations. But what they don't have are people who can come and do a program on a learning activity that maybe their senior center doesn't have the capacity to do. So I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential in that. We would love to do it. We just are seeking the funding. And so that's what really the outreach is. And you make a good case about where do we explore putting a new location. So the facilities report that we're working on is going to study those demographics and make recommendations and update that 2009 plan. Because you can draw circles around our libraries. And if you look at the population density around this library in 2009, it's very different than it is right now in 2024, 25. I would say it's gone up dramatically. And so there are some standard formulas in libraries that show like per capita patrons per square foot. So we can create some numbers like that. We can demonstrate that yes, in 2009 we were saying, yeah, we need to make Hull Street a little bit better, but maybe you don't need to make it a 12,000 square foot building. Maybe at this point we need to make it an 18,000 square foot building. And then how do we do that? And also, where are we going to get the funding for that? So we're doing our part in terms of like recognizing the need, demonstrating the need, letting our governance, our city know that this is the need, so help us meet that demand. And so I'm hopeful that the CIP will start to move forward. Now, it's very frustrating sometimes because CIP does move very slowly. When you tend to spend large amounts of money, we don't make rash decisions on that often. Nonetheless, we're going to be able to demonstrate our case better in the CIP, and the work the facilities committee is doing is going to provide the background on that. So we'll be prepared in the next 12 months. We'll have a much stronger case, and we'll be prepared should anything come along to say, absolutely, we would consider putting a temporary location in Scott's Addition, or absolutely we need to go down Huguenot Road and put something, or in the East End because it's a long way from Churchill to Fulton Hill. You know, it's probably an hour bus ride from Fulton Hill to East End. So getting there is part of the battle. But maybe if we have a mobile library, we can set up, for lack of a better term, a beachhead there and say, okay, we're going to send the library to the Powhatan Community Center on Fulton Hill, and they're going to show up on Thursdays for 4 hours a day. Maybe that leads to space inside that community center. So we're definitely exploring all those. Again, we're going to have resources because when I talk about those things, I need people to put in place there.
Right.
So that's the real key part of growing and doing this, and we have to do it with the funds that the city gives us. So again, that was the motivation behind our request. It is not an outlet. In my humble opinion, it's the next step for us. So we're not asking for the moon. We're asking for somewhere maybe in the stratosphere.
Lower Earth
Yeah.
orbit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Another thing I was just thinking about, you know, we really have got to target our young people, you know, I look at the numbers and they are growing, which is a wonderful thing, but we still need to get more and more of them involved. I see more children being isolated since the pandemic. Teenagers are on their phone and isolation. They need to get together, socialize, and, you know, be a part of humanity. And I'm thinking we need to, and some has been done, partnering with rec and parks. That's where they will go, you know, to the rec and parks facilities, some of them. And we need to kind of step up, you know, partnering with them to try and get that demographic, you know, pull them in to read a book or something, you know.
In the next 12 months, Parks and Rec is going to open 3 state-of-the-art facilities, and they're going to be community centers that are going to surpass everything that's on the ground right now. If you've seen the design and they're building right now, they're amazing spaces, and they're going to set the bar very high for our existing community centers, and I think we have a lot of opportunity to partner in those spaces. And Parks and Rec is very receptive to us, helping with programs and activities, and them reaching, I mean, they're doing a lot of wonderful work in out-of-school time. I think there's opportunity for us to do more of that with them. We don't have the capacity right now because we don't have the people to partner with them in the ways that they need us to partner. But our request would allow us to do that better.
Well done.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try to catch a couple of things. Scott's covered it really well, but he jumped over a couple of big things as far as the numbers because he's on top of it and it's not something, but I think we need to know about it. The total budget request he's requested is just under $2 million above our basic adjusted operating budget. And by that, what I mean is, if you look at our budget, the $8 million budget basically now, and you say, well, we're going to have higher VRS fees, we're going to have Cersei library catalog is going to, all of these things go up. Union negotiation, we're probably going to see labor costs going up additionally, so on. That is not included in that 2 million increase.
Okay.
Okay, so
That's
we're looking
a
at
good distinction. Thank you.
right. We're looking at 2 million of additional funding, additional things.
Yeah.
Okay, not just keeping the regular going. So I think that's important, and it's really important when we talk about advocacy, because there are a lot of people, new people coming in on council, mayor, etc., who are going to say, "Oh, well, we've given you X."
Right.
Well, that X is to keep us steady.
Right.
Okay, so we probably need to be at what, 9 something before any of this to be where we, just to hold. So they've got to give us $1 million plus we're asking for 2. The 1 isn't giving us. That's just adjusting for continuing operations. Okay. The second thing I wanted to do is just sort of break out for a minute the 7, I think it is, areas, 6 areas that Scott talked about, and sort of break it into 2 groups. The first one, access, children's literacy, young adults, and lifelong learning. I think those are probably, in a way, they're core. They're just really important priorities that we've set over the last couple of years, and point out that we're only looking for $700,000 there. It's just, I mean, it sounds only 700, but honestly, when you look at the overall budgeting and how the city spends money, that's not an outrageous amount to be asking our council to come up with for us there. Then the other 2 items in there that get us up to that 2 million are 125 for furniture and fixtures. We need it, but it's, personally, I'd rather get by a little bit with furniture and fixtures the way they are and add people and programs. That's not necessarily the view of everyone here, and that's okay. We may disagree on that. I think the programs are what differentiate us from a lot of other things, where people can go to get books and so on. That the programs really, they're how we're tying people in, we're teaching, getting people more excited about reading and learning. The second one of that is 1.3 million of it, roughly, is in the outreach vehicle, and I think that has to be looked at a little bit separately. It's sort of a cross between operating, it's in the operating budget here, but it's a cross between operating and capital. And I think we've got to look at that when we talk about it. So we've asked really for between 700 and 815 for operations expansions. We've asked for another 1.2 for a quasi-operational, but really a capital. The mobile library, in a large extent, is another branch. It just is one that happens to be able to move to meet people where they are. So I think we need to look at different ways and talk to them about that. So I think that's important. Then on the capital, I think one of the things that I'd like to think about how we do. We've asked for 70 million for the main renovation, and the branches. We didn't put a number to the branches, did we?
No, we don't have the data to even make a proposal of a back of the napkin ask.
Right.
We need to do a study of what we need to update that 2009 and say, okay, we need 15,000 square feet at Hall Street. So 15,000 square feet is $500 a square foot, or I don't know what the prices are right now. That would be like a ballpark to put in there, but even that number's an estimate.
Until facilities gets a little further and we can cost something out, we're there. So what I wanted to talk about with the capital is, I think it's great, and we did what we needed to with putting the 70 million in. We need to, as a board, and maybe under Chris's direction, I hope, figure out who we can talk to once the new council is in place, et cetera, about, we could put in $70 million requests every year, over and over and over, and keep getting turned down because they say it just isn't enough return on it. Priorities, capital budgeting, it's always that way. I think we need to start talking to them about, we deserve 70 million, the citizens deserve to have Maine renovated, but if you can't give us 70, can you give us 15 or 20 to make remain functional, safe, etc. And then maybe, even if we could get 70, maybe 20 or 30 more out of that 70 that would come is better spent at branches. So I think
Okay.
we really
Okay.
need to look at that and get out of the, well, here's the city system of putting in a request every year and waiting to see what happens, and just really finding out who's in charge of the capital budgeting and working with them a little bit more. So those were the main things on the budget that we're putting in, and then I wanted to quickly touch on just a couple of things in the page 19 and 21 that are always, they vary the page number, but that Scott always puts in. And some couple of things that I wanted to get clarification on from Scott, and I'm mentioning them just in case you've looked at this and had similar questions. You'll see general fund revenue on page 19, the state library aid, that he's going to get dropped off in the future on aid there. Scott explained to me, I said, well, how can we show 170 budget and nothing actually in there? And basically, it's an accounting oddity that the money comes in from the state to the city, but we don't necessarily get it applied to us directly the way one would think it would. So it doesn't show up here. It's not something that we should be concerned that we're 3 months into the year and the state hasn't given us the money. The state has probably given the money to the city already. We look down to the books and materials, yeah, I was pleased. Let's see. No, I'm just going to skip that one for now. Public law library, that has been an issue that we've had going on for 7 or 8 years that I've been on the board, and it's still going on. It's a little bit better. The city does seem to be getting the money from the courts. We don't necessarily get it allocated quite when we should, but then it gets adjusted for. And what I look at when I look at that is, I don't think we have a situation where we are going to come up short and have somebody say, well, you need to squeeze to make up for this money that didn't come in. I also don't think we're going to have anything that says, well, the courts were busier, so you have an extra 100,000 to spend. It's just, okay. Let's see, so we'll skip library, and then we'll go to the next page real quickly, and, sorry, mags and newspapers I wanted to mention. It's interesting, because I always think we can't carry anything over. So you'll see we've got a negative 14 actually spent. That's a carryover credit. So when Melvin talks about the budget on books and not getting enough of them here, there is a little bit more money. There's about 45 to spend this year, 50 to spend this year instead of the 30 that it shows as the budgeted amount. So that's a positive thing. And then the last one, and it's not really a budget thing, I want to bring it up again though, is security. That's budgeted and encumbered is why it's such a high amount at 78%, but we are going to have a problem probably on security as we go forward. That the costs are going to probably run higher, and we're going to have to look at that, and that's something that when we get into the advocacy, that I think, does the city government want us to scrimp on security and have a risky situation, or will they give us some money to deal with public safety? You know, I don't think we should say, oh, well, to keep our buildings safe, we need to cut down on the books or the programs we offer. I think that's something that they should look at and say, well, yeah, obviously, there should be enough there to cover that. So that's just one I wanted to bring up there. Also mention that we may end up with a little problem on the retirement funding, that is running higher than they allocated for it, and that's also one we may have to deal with at some point down the road. And that's just, the city has given us the number to put in there. That's not Scott's budgeting and an error at all. It's just the VRS contribution is higher than they told us it would be. So anyway, those are the main things. I think Scott's put in a great budget plan. When you look at them item by item, and I'll run through them real quickly when I have access, 260 for this year. Childhood literacy, 180. Young adults, 150, and lifelong learning, 100. And, I might mention, if you read through the packet that Gianna sent out, things like lifelong learning, what, I think there was something about 3 people got jobs because one of our librarians worked well with them. When you see something like that, you say, well, you know, 100,000 split among 9 branches, you know, looking at $11,000 a branch. If they can get a couple of people employed at each branch, that has been a wonderful return for the city. But none of these numbers, is what I wanted to point out, none of these are big numbers for the city. You know, when we look at it, so all of them are things that we should be able to get done, I hope. Okay, any questions for me? No? Okay, thank
I'm
you.
just curious about security. Does the library contract directly with a security company? Goes through the city?
It's a city contract, they control the contract. Cheryl, as a superintendent of facilities, coordinates all the delivery of service. So, end of the day, we make requests and explain what's happening. They're in charge of the contract, so they manage all the details with it.
And I might mention, Scott's, I mean, we're keeping security at the minimum that we can under the city program there, as far as not paying for armed people because the price goes up with it, et cetera. But it is something that we need to try to get them to notice. And I can say this is, you know, not just the Richmond problem, not just an urban problem even, which it's much more heavily there. But I sent to Scott the other day, and yesterday I read in the Norfolk paper that the city of Virginia Beach, which is very unurban as far as very spread out, you know, largest geographic city in the state. They recently had to pass an ordinance, city ordinance, to ban overnight parking in their library branches. You can't be on the library property when it's closed for more than, I think it's 1 hour parked. Because even there, they're having problems. So people are aware that, you know, these are issues that are occurring in libraries. And
Is it because people are sleeping in their cars and the library is a safe place?
safe place,
That,
but
yeah.
it's,
And they have Wi-Fi.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
yeah, some
There
libraries
you
turn off the
go.
Wi-Fi for
There
that
you
purpose, but
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
but it, yeah, I mean, and that's fine. If somebody wants to go do that down there, they can do that. They just don't want people overnight because people get, you know, attacked. And,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's just not a safe thing. So I just wanted to point out it. It's not a Richmond specific problem.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
sec-
generalized.
Security in urban libraries is a challenge across the country.
Yeah.
We're all dealing with many varied issues with it. Cheryl and the city, we work together all the time on like identifying problems, finding solutions, how to best do it efficiently and safely within the resources that we have.
Yeah.
And I swear, every time we think we have something solved, we get a new challenge. I have to say our policy has evolved over time. I believe in many ways it addresses 99% of our problems, but you know, we're getting help from our community partners and our security. So I wish we had a perfect solution. We have a progressive solution. So again, it's very expensive. And as Bill noted, it's running high and it will continue to be a challenge for us.
Thank you both.
Who do we have, how do we handle homeless people? I mean, who do they call? I'm unaware of the process or what goes on.
You'll hear announcements on GRTC bus if you're facing a homeless situation or being ready or be evicted from your home. They have a phone number that you can contact. I go to Rebus meetings, every meeting. They always have somebody there to suggest or give these people the information. You have more of a mental situation on the buses that's going on. So out of 100 people that get on the bus, you're gonna have 2 people that are the problem. And it's not because they don't have any place to go, because they do have outlets where they can go, but they don't go or they don't want the help. We have one man that rides the 1A bus continuously until when he gets off the bus driver has to take the bus out of service. Because, and then you had somebody, a good Samaritan, that actually took him off the bus, took him to a hotel, brought him food, brought him clothes, asked him to get in the shower, he would not get in the
Yeah.
shower. So
Yeah.
it's more of a mental outreach that we have to be able to be involved with.
That's what I
Scott,
wanted,
maybe-
you know.
No, I was just gonna say, Scott, did you wanna talk through what sort of the procedures are? Cause you and I talked about it a little bit, cause I asked sort of the same question that you did, Sharon.
Mrs. Hins is right, they have a homeless hotline, that's one of the first lines of defense. The city's just instituted a one-stop on Chamberlain Avenue, so they're referring folks to that resource where they can get all kinds of help. And we have a homeless liaison who coordinates efforts from outside city partners, and there's something called the Continuum of Care, which is another resource that the city has put in place. So dealing with unsheltered, I have to say, in my time here with the city, it has really, they've raised capacity, they've made investments, and they are making really strong, I think they're making progress in terms of like addressing this issue, especially in the last 2 years. So this is not a problem that's going to go away, though.
Scott, I was surprised when we talked to hear how many incidents the library staff and the security actually step in, and sort of how it's done. I think maybe that's what you're looking for. What actually, you know, what's the
And let's hold that for another, you know, so that
Yeah.
Scott can prepare and we can talk about it as a separate unit. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
want to make sure, you know, I mean, you know.
I think
this
it's a
is an
great
ideal place
question,
for
but
homeless people
I don't want it to be a
spend,
top of your head answer.
But I don't want the, you know, people who work here to be overwhelmed with, you know, with it. And I
Understood.
want them to have some direction as to, you know, if
Understood.
where can we direct these
Yeah.
people, you know, or get them
Understood.
help or whatever.
Yeah, so let's have that be something we talk about with some earnest dedication. Before we leave this is the big thing I wanted to do. If you have any questions or concerns about the budget, talk to Scott, CC me. Once we are all comfortable moving forward, Sharon and Scott and I are going to come up with a draft discussion type advocacy plan that we'll work on for the next meeting. But let's make sure we're doing a fiduciarily responsible job. Thank you, Bill. Good. Thank you. Any other closing thoughts? Good. Let's go to facilities and Janet.
So, there's a survey out there. How long will the survey be open, Susan?
At this point, there is no end time. We'll be looking at data a little bit more closely at the end of the year.
So I hope all of you have responded to the survey. You're looking like you haven't, Emily.
I don't know if I've seen it, but I miss emails sometimes.
Not to put Emily on the
Or maybe
spot.
I did it right away. Yeah, I don't know.
Safe space, no shaming, no shaming.
No, but
Well, I have a feeling we're not the only.
Jeez.
I know I did the Parks and Rec one. I think I would remember the library one.
So please do the library survey, and
Much shorter than Parks
maybe
and Rec.
Susan will send the link. Yeah.
I would be delighted to do that.
Thank you.
And share it with your friends and family, on your social media or however you share. Because we really want to get a lot of good input for our facilities plan, which I know Scott works on heavily. And I'll let you give more detail on it.
Okay.
I will say I've shared it with my friends, and several of them have come back to me saying, I only do ebooks, I never go into a library.
Well, you can still do the survey.
I said, I don't care.
That's all.
Fill out the survey.
That's why we have users and future users.
Right.
I don't
Instead of
care.
users
Fill
and
it out.
non-users. So we have some future, we're asking what our future users, what we don't have that they want us to have. So we
That's
really
a better
thought through that.
answer.
I thought it was
That's a better
brilliant.
one, yeah.
Susan and Jen and our team came up with that, and I thought that was brilliant to
Yes, it was good. Good framing.
frame the question in that way. So the survey is really one part. It's one of those parts where we're trying to gather feedback from people through that means. I believe we have to do it more than just a little survey. We will have focus groups and we'll start scheduling those. They'll be at every location. They'll be with the public and they'll also be with the staff. I'm going to do the focus groups with our staff first because I want to gather their feedback and share with them what information we're talking about because they need to know and they can help sell it to the public if I talk to them first. So that will be the next wave. We're going to have discussions with all staff, and we need to get their feedback because they spend the most time in these buildings. They hear the most from our patrons who walk in the door, and they're going to be able to inform us as to what we need to look for as we're talking in those public groups. So survey, public feedback. We're also doing kind of a facilities assessment inventory, which is Cheryl and I are gathering all of the data that we have on all of our locations. When did we put in an HVAC system? When did this place get a roof? So we have pretty much the nuts and bolts should we ever have to be asked, well, do you want a 15,000 square foot branch at Hull Street? Well, it seems okay to me. We can say, hold on, it's only this much square feet. Here's a picture of the meeting room. Here's when the roof was done. So we have those answers for when because those are the next logical questions. When you say, I want a bigger place, that's what they're going to ask. So we're preparing that information. And the final piece is just general data. So the general data of census tract information,
Very important.
Circulation information, program usage, computer usage, all of the things that you get in this report every month. We've been keeping this data for a long time. I'd like to put it all in one place so you can look at when they ask us, well, what's happening in Hull Street? I can show you for 10 years. This is how the circulation has ebbed and flowed. This is how the door count has increased or decreased or changed. And we will have a nice bucket of data to look at and go, well, that does support a 15,000 square foot branch there. You are seeing an increase, or you're not seeing an increase. And if you're not seeing it, we can speculate and make some educated theories as to why that is and how we can address it. And then we have the feedback data and the survey data and all of the stuff to present to someone. So it will definitely accelerate the process when those opportunities present themselves. Right now we have it, but it's here and there and everywhere. So essentially we'll have, after this process, this report, which will become a living document. We will constantly keep it updated. So we won't be caught flat-footed if somebody says, well, by golly, we can put a library down at the end of Commerce Boulevard, which is near all of that stuff, and what size do you need? We'll say, here's what we need.
Yeah,
and
we'll
at
know.
least we can have opening conversations.
We'll know the answer.
Right now, I don't have that without doing a bunch of work, or slowing the process down by having to hire somebody to do that work before we can get what we need to have done. So those are the three big pieces with the facilities plan, the facilities report. We're working on it, and there's just a lot to be done. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And you expect it done when?
Well, again, it's a living
Team,
document.
yes.
So, we will have some solid stuff ready by the end of the year. We will have even better stuff by the time we start having conversations with council members and city administration and going through budget. And this time next year, we're going to have an amazing document that will be very fulfilling. So
that's an important thing we're doing. So thank you for all your efforts. Garrett's not here, so we're going to skip governance. Unfinished business, anything we want to bring up? Okay, new business, the agenda for next year. So it's the last page, page 21. I pulled mine out so I would be ready. This is the new schedule for calendar year 2025. Jonna always sends us the notes. I put it into my calendar so I have 2 mentions of library board meetings. Get it in because it's going to be a busy year, but I understand we have to approve this. So is there a motion to approve the 2025 meeting location schedule as submitted.
I move to approve the
Sharon,
calendar as submitted.
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Right?
All right, we are good. There is no meeting in November. Our next meeting will be December 4th. It will be at Westover Hills Branch. And with that, I thank you very much.
That you have
Thank you.
to adjourn.
Yes, we don't have to vote on adjourning, I don't think.
Nope.
We're just done.
When you get to the end of your thing.
We're just done.